during that countdown, hello, I realized something else.
What?
Welcome. Tonight is conversation number 9, and it's about love. Potion number 9.
Potion number 9.
Now I need, after the show, we
That
know.
Neil Diamond.
I don't know, but after the show, I got some homework. So welcome back, everyone. It's Tuesday night again. Our new favorite night of the week. Used to be Monday.
Yeah.
First tie Monday, Tuesday. But yeah, this is Conversations for a New Earth with your hosts, Matt and Alyssa Omega. We are so excited for tonight's conversation. It's been a lot of buzz between us back and forth as we prepare for it. Very big topic, heart healing. Doesn't get much bigger or better than that. So how are you feeling going into this conversation?
I'm nervous. I'm nervous because it's such a big topic. I remember talking to my brother-in-law like a couple years ago when we were in the hot tub after he went through a big thing. And I remember him telling me, I have never talked to somebody that has said the word love more times in a conversation than you. And I'm like, that actually makes sense. I feel like it's one of my life lessons is figuring out how love applies to all things. So with this being the heart chakra green, I got my little green heart. This kind of just appeared for me. I was like, all right, let's go with it. Yeah, it's a big topic, and I feel a little inadequate, if I'm being honest, to be able to talk about it. But I'm gonna do my best. Oh yay!
Yes.
Hello, Arrow. Love
you. Great to have you. Not just good. Everything's great.
Amazing to have you.
Bright and beautiful. Yes, so good to have you with us. Thank you so much for the comments. We look forward to it because love is something that, like you mentioned, that conversation, you said it a lot. It's like, I don't want to say diluted, but we do use it a lot. And maybe we don't take the time to think about what we're actually saying or what's behind it. So that's what these conversations are. It's the time to spend an hour going into whatever it is and really breaking it down. So I'm very excited.
As am I. And I feel like there's so many distortions of what love is, true love, unconditional love, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. And it feels like they should have had 25 different words for what we use in our vocabulary as love. It's like we use love so many things, and so many of them is so twisted and weird that it kind of distorts the word itself. So I'm excited to talk about unconditional love today, what that really looks like, what that feels like, how I've found to tap into it, and how that applies to our heart and why our heart is a little bit different than the rest of the chakras.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I think English might be the only language that doesn't have multiple words for the word love.
Really?
Yeah, I know Greek had at least 5, maybe more. Latin had, I think, 8. Spanish, I know, has multiple. So yeah, it's different for sure. And all the more reason to talk about it tonight. So quick setting the stage. This conversation is about questions. It's about exploring. It's about being vulnerable. It's not really about knowing or feeling like any certain direction is the right direction. So it's designed that way for a purpose. We believe that the idea of learning does a lot more good for us than the idea of knowing. And that's just kind of like a fundamental thing that is part of who we are. So if that resonates, great. Type any questions, any thoughts, any feelings in the little comments, and we'll do our best to put them on the screen and validate and connect with those thoughts and comments any way we can. But we welcome all, even just a little tidbit of where you're from, what you're up to. If you haven't been here before, looks like all the streams are working. So we will dive right in.
Let's do it.
So it's also interesting because tonight is July 1st, which is the midpoint of the year.
Gosh, yes.
It's wild. I thought about that a couple times today. We're already halfway through 2025, which is so much transformation, so much growth, so much challenge, so much endless. The year of endless transformation is what I named it in January, and I had no idea. Midpoint
did not have any idea.
That was calling in a lot. But the heart chakra is the midpoint of the traditional 7 chakras too. So it feels like the conversation was destined. We're here halfway through the treasure in the trauma series of taking chakras from the root on up to the crown. And then I feel like in the heart is where we sort of have a better baseline understanding. The lower chakras, the solar, the sacral, the root are still very hard for me to connect to. But as we get to the heart, the throat, the mind, these are places that I'd say, spend more time. So the conversations get bigger and we've got more and more to talk about. But it definitely feels like a divine alignment moment being here at this center point of the year, of the chakras that we traditionally talk about, which is the 7. So the idea of center point kind of resonated with you as we were preparing for this session. What was that resonance between the center point and the heart?
Yeah, and a lot came through, and it kind of was like a very I mean, I already kind of was playing with it, but like right before, there's always like something that like comes right into my field. And it's like, you got to talk about this. And that was that it holds a 0 point. So there is a 0 point. It's like that moment where because it's the void, but I truly believe that the void is the space of love that holds anything and everything. It's the web of existence that is holding and giving birth to anything that wants to be created. So it's a connection where all that is can once again become one with everything and then rebirth. So our heart is the place where our experiences are meant to be transformed into either like crystals and nuggets of wisdom. And then anything that wasn't something that's helpful was meant to then be back through the 0 point to then create new life. So when I first heard about the 0 point, I'm like, what? That's so fascinating. What does that mean? And I've explored it a lot, but yeah, and I remember even scientifically, I can't tell you now what it is, but there was like this some kind of scientific proof that like they have this or that. I wouldn't know exactly what it is, but they're truly, from my perspective and what I've experienced and what I've delved into, there's this point in your heart where all things, basically life force is coming through it and brought back in. And that's like the heartbeat, right? It's this out and in. And we have a point in which all things connect back, especially if we're talking about higher heart, which I don't think we're going to do like a separate one. So we're kind of talking about both right now.
Good.
Of a place of pure love. Okay. It's the place where, and what I believe pure love is the stretching of the fabric of the oneness, the I am presence that created the idea of separation that we're all living through. There's a point that it has to stretch in order to give you the capacity to live separately in the illusion of separation and in choice and in our ability to act in whatever way we want, having forgotten and now experienced this separation, this division, which was a gift, which we can wake up to. But the heart is the fabric that holds you, is pulsing life into you in order for you to have that freedom, that will, that experience. And it is only love that would ever possibly do that, because it's a very selfless act. It is, I love you so much that I give you the space to learn, to grow. Even though you're going to make all these bad choices, I believe in you, and I believe in the potential you will be able to have by learning on your own versus force and all these other ideas that we call love, which isn't true. But there is a point in you that is as unconditional love can be just brought right back. No matter what it was, no matter what you've felt, no matter what has happened, there's a point where it all comes back, and where it comes back to is love. And that's unconditional. But we have a hard time finding it because our will, which we talked about last week, is our solar, the one that can make the choices, that's trying to figure it all out. It's like, oh, I don't know, but let me make this choice. Literally will freeze the parts of our feelings and our experience to not be assimilated, because it's so scared of the feeling of being at that point when all things are coming full force to the experience that it had. It's like, no, I can't. So it kind of like holds on, and that's our resistance. And that part believes that it's protecting. And in some ways, a lot of times it is like, I got to keep going. I got to keep making sure my kids stay alive. So a part of us holds the protection to say, not now. We're in survival. And there's a time later that we can talk about our feelings, but right now we just got to be here. Right. So there is a very good point in some ways to that, but we freeze and we allow that to become the way of life. And that holding on to our emotions versus letting them flow naturally, expressing them and allowing them to be assimilated back into where they connect to love, we don't. And so it truly is, the heart is ready. It's this portal back to wholeness, back to oneness, back to love that is meant to connect you. But when we say, oh, I can't feel that much grief, I can't feel that much pain, we halt ourselves from becoming and filling our cup with this love that it truly was for love. Even if that's just because we made a bad choice and we needed to learn from it, that still is love. The fact that we had the freedom to choose and to explore, it still was love that gave us the opportunity. And there's wisdom in every single choice we've ever made, no matter how bad. There's wisdom in every single choice anybody else has made, no matter how bad, when you see it through the eyes of love. And your capacity to have power to shift your own self, regardless of what everybody else, has chosen. And we talked about last week, the accountability. When you pull the power back in you to say, you did that, but let me do this. I'm gonna do what I can to use my power for something better than that. So the bad choices other people make is also something you can learn from, versus trying to control them. Let it be an imprint of how you want to choose something better than that. So everything connects back to the heart, and this heart is such a huge thing, and love is the center, but it's so there's so many aspects of it that it's really hard to kind of start exploring it, because I just want to be pulled in every single direction. So I'm gonna kind of
right.
With the
Yeah, that's a great intro though. And it is so expansive. I don't know that there's a more expansive topic that we could pick, really. Heart healing, the title of this, is the title we picked for Alyssa's business. You picked for your business a few years ago, because it's all expansive. Heart healing literally encompasses every element of the human experience. So you called out 3 or 4 really powerful ones that I'd like to see if we could take one at a time and try to gain a deeper feeling, and I'm sure more curiosity about what's really going on. But first, very important special guest who's joined, Eve. Hello. Thank you so much for making it. I forgot. We know you've got a lot going on tonight, so thank you for joining where you can. Great to have you with us tonight. Any thoughts you have about love, about the heart chakra, about grief, about pain, about experience, feel free, throw in the comments and we'll do what we can to explore it. But the first thing that I caught on to you saying as you were explaining love is that it's sort of like this portal that transforms your experience. And it has the infinite power to glean the good and kind of transform the negative. Can you talk about that power of the portal of the heart a little bit? And also, it reminds me of something I've heard. Is that kind of like what the earth is? Is the earth kind of doing that same thing? I've heard a lot that the earth's kind of like this heart of the universe where lots of energy kind of comes through us, whether we like it or not, that sort of needs to be transformed. So I think if we could talk about that power of the heart, in a literal sense, what it does, but also feeling to really cycle through energy. And if that's kind of part connected to our purpose here on earth, I think that'd be a good place to start.
Yeah. So ask, which first question do you want to do?
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about the power of, it seems like love and the heart is the same, to transform experience for our good, no matter what it is.
Yeah. It's really, when seen through the heart, through the 0 point, when you're finally witnessed because you allowed it to flow. So I kind of see it as like a portal that your experiences, everything has risen up through your choices, through the passion that all these things are in working for you. And by the time it gets to your heart, it's meant to come back in and then flow back out. Right. So in the flowing in, it's to be witnessed by love. Okay. To allow yourself, the emotions, when they have a tracker. They literally have a tracker. If you allow them to be alive, they find their way back. They find their way. So there's a reason why you have emotion, and it's all already tuned to know when you just feel it where it needs to go, and it goes back in. And as it's witnessed through the 0 point, you are back in the oneness, and there is only love there. And that's why you have the power then to be and feel all this love, is because you allowed this experience and these emotions to go in and to be witnessed by the one, by the 0 point that is love. It's just what it is. So once you're witnessed, you then bring that back. you bring that back. And that's where then you are like, wow. And you feel the capacity to go the in breath and the out breath and then back in again. And you're
Yeah.
growing your capacity to experience love, but you have to be the one to receive it first, because that is our nature.
Wow.
We are the child at this point. And then by the masculine part of us having the experience, the will to choose, and then making the wrong choices, and then having all the emotions of maybe bad choices and good choices, that then is assimilated back to the mother, the feminine, that holds the space to say, I see you, I love you, I respect you, let's learn. Learn from that. That's okay. There's the 0 point of perfect love that exists in you when you allow your feelings to fully be seen back into the very end of that feeling.
Wow.
There truly is an end, and we don't think there is. So when we're stuck in the worst of all feelings, we literally, by resisting and trying to judge it, trying to control it, we then throw all these other seeds and all these other things that then grow into other weeds that are going to have feelings. But if you just surrender, and instead of trying to judge it or resist it, you say, okay, this is for me, but why? And you surrender. It only takes 3 minutes of such grief and pain, but 3 minutes of truly feeling it fully for it to be back assimilated. But those 3 minutes of that pain and that grief and that confusion, that truly, if you really just like a child, allow it to just scream it out. And it feels like it'll last forever. Even when you're a mom and you hear your child like just belting out, screaming, it feels like, oh my gosh, I cannot stand this for 3 minutes. I'm going to go insane.
Right.
So it also feels, but when you're a child and it's flowing through freely, you do just allow it. But we've been trained to believe there's something wrong with that expression, those feelings. Yes, should we be, aware of how screaming out loud and in a public restaurant would be probably not the best time? Yes, but you're meant to go home and you're meant to feel it. You're meant to cry like a little boy or a little girl that truly just lost whatever they lost. But when you do, you're then witnessed. By the time you're done, you're back there at the point of 0. And that's where that inner breath and that wisdom finally comes back to you again, because you met it. Met it. You allowed it, and you created space to be felt, to be seen. And that's where you're then at the 0 point that you can choose to let in as much love as possible. You then have the capacity, because you've met it, to then sense of it through the eyes of love, because you've been witnessed, you've expressed it, explored it. And then that's when all the wisdom can flow right back through.
Yeah.
The more that we allow all these things, the more present we are in the love, because we've allowed the space to be seen and to flow. And that love then is its potential to grow gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Wow.
Because we've taken it in, and then we've breathed the life of love back into ourselves by holding space for love to witness us even after all the pain has been felt. And most of us have been trained not to go there. We live a life like resisting love, and especially when we allowed love in and we think it's wrong, then we cut that from us and we just kind of get closed in, and we're slowly dying over time.
Right. Yeah, we definitely need to get to that part. But you said something that was so novel that I've never heard before. Every emotion has a tracker. I've never heard it explained that way before, but it feels like what you're saying is like, consider like your heart in your body, and then all the blood in your body is the little platelets, and the heart keeps count of all of them. Love is the same thing for feelings. Every little feeling, even if you want to deny it, love took note of it. And even though you kicked it way out as far away as possible, and maybe it's decades, or maybe you're on, the end of your life before you're willing to feel that feeling, your heart never forgets, and love never forgets. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And It's the great rememberer. It's the part of you that remembers. And so if you trust the feeling, if you allow the feeling to flow, it has a tracker. It knows exactly where to go, and it will go back if you allow it. And it is only us that resists us from being able to transform the experience and then the emotions that came from the experience and the choices back into wholeness within us, to then birth something better, something even more great and grand and wonderful, because we learned from the choices and the thoughts that created the emotion in the first place. Whoops, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. I knew that for a while, and it makes perfect sense to me that when the feelings are felt, it's not like it's just going to endlessly go in all these different directions. Yeah, you can throw in a whole lot of other things that will then need to fill all those repercussions of those thoughts that you've now planted that can, and not only is this one thing, and you now have 17 other ones because of all the choices you made that you've been resisting. So it's a big flood, and it doesn't mean it's all in 3 minutes it's done, because there's a lot to deal with. But any one, it only takes 3 minutes. So we as children, you look at children, they have these big outbursts, and they're done. They're perfectly happy. 3 minutes later, let's go play. Us, we'll let it go 30 years and not be processed, not be felt, not be screaming because I'm so upset you took my toy and this feels like the end of the world. We have different experiences now that we're older, but it's that you took my toy. How could you do that? I was so excited. And I don't want to take a nap. You're making me, there's just real feelings from the experience that we're meant to experience.
Yeah.
And if we just surrender, it all goes back to 0 point. And the only thing we ever need to do is truly surrender. And by the surrendering, creating as much sacred space for you to surrender, you then go back to remember why and how, and you gain all your power back, and you gain your choices become more wise, because you have all the information necessary to make a new choice next time, because you were seen by love, and you realize where you didn't see the love the first time and where the choice didn't see the love the first time. It all goes back to love. But when you're witnessed through your mistakes through the eyes of love, love speaks back.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe next time do this. Okay. And it's in that vulnerable receiving and surrender, the wisdom of the mother that comes just through to meet you every time, because that's what love does. You're literally being held to make all the bad choices, because that's what love is offering. And it's not saying, oh, you're on your own. It's saying, please come back whenever you're ready. But we've stopped coming back because we don't want to feel, when the feeling was the way back.
Yeah.
The feeling was given to you, not to just be in your mind, but to learn a lesson every single time, because the feeling brings you back every time. To witness what you chose and how it makes you feel is the very way to get back to wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
And we resist our emotions because we're so confused at it.
Right.
It's a huge conversation.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And I've got 2 or 3 follow-up questions. We've got several more who've joined on Instagram, here on YouTube. Facebook looks like it's working too. So any questions, any thoughts, any input that anyone has, it's all welcome. These conversations for a new earth are about giving a voice to those things that you may not have found a voice for yet. Or maybe you have and you'd like to share it more. Whatever it is, this is the place for that. There's really no limit and no cap to what that can be. So
curiosity too. Like, there's no wrong question. If you have a question, like, allow it to have breath so that we can explore it together. That's
yeah, absolutely. And a few things that I'm picking up on. One is you have come back to this idea of breath pretty often, which resonates pretty deeply, because for me, the beginning of this journey that ultimately led me to you and really sort of rewiring my body and my mind and my life started with learning how to breathe. And I really hadn't learned to before, but what I learned through that is your breath is like really the only conscious thing that you have control over to connect to your heart. So you've said breathing pretty often. You've talked about going back to center point. It feels like it's like going from fight or flight and reacting and just, sort of bumbling through life to being intentional and bringing it back in and feeling it. Is the breath like a really important element? And if so, how do you connect your breath to your heart in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. The first thing that came through for me is, like, when you think about the breath, the only thing that the breath asks for in order to give you everything you need is to trust it and do what feels good. Right? You don't have to force it. You consciously think about your breath. What does your breath want? I just need to breathe.
That's so funny. It really does feel so good. I hadn't really thought of it in that way before.
We don't need to control it, but we do control it, and we resist it. So by being conscious, like even with breath work, it's like do more than you're used to, hold back more than you're used to, but it's expanding your consciousness to be conscious of the capacity of your breath. But your breath in its purest form without restraint literally does it because it feels good. And that's like the message of life.
Oh, wow.
Just lean into truly what feels good. And that is the consciousness that you're meant to play with. It is in balance with the universe, right? And then the other side of it is whatever feels good, it may be something you need to become aware of as you're growing. How what feels good for you might not feel good for others, and how are you affecting each other? And that's like that level up. But the very first level, that everything you need to know is that what is meant for you is already been written in you, and you're just supposed to lean into what feels good. You think about like even the animal kingdom, like we're the the people that are going away from like being in a natural state of whatever feels right, what feels good, I'm going to do it. And the earth takes care of the rest. The balance is made even. And in most cases, nature takes care of the rest, right? But for us, we get off balance because we get off key to what truly feels right and feels good, because we're trying to control it versus lean in and receive it.
So true. And it's so funny. I could tell you like an hour's worth of funny stories about me not knowing how to breathe. I had these extreme yoga classes I did for years, and the teachers would be like, breathe. And I would say like, I am breathing. And they would say, no, you're not. You're posing, you're posturing, you're trying to look like you're breathing. And I was so worried, like, because you'd have your shirt off, like, do my abs look good? Am I looking weird? Are my nostrils inflamed? Like, all these things. And I just had all these blocks. And you're talking about a lot of like, that's your sacral, right? Like, do what feels good, connect that heart breath work to what feels good. And then your solar, like, remove the blocks of needing to protect and just surrender. So it's so powerful. But I think Eve's question kind of sums it up really well. Any reading or etc., maybe some more instruction here, whatever you think, for learning how to breathe? Because that's such a great question. And I have to and it's like you tense up your shoulders and you just breathe shallow and you're in the fight or flight. I do that all the time. So what would you recommend as far as learning how to
best thing, that's what I'm trying to say. The best thing is literally becoming aware of what feels good as far as breathing. I feel if you bring your consciousness to your breath and ask your breath, how much breath do you want? What feels right? What feels good? And then allow yourself to surrender to the breath, the rhythm of the breath that it wants to breathe. So instead of repressing it or feeling like you're trying to make up for something because you've repressed it, that's what we're trying to learn how to do, But in all reality, all the breath needs is your awareness to let go of control and allow the breath to flow. Allow the breath to expand, allow it to feel full. And the reason why some breath work is all like, okay, push it, is because you haven't allowed yourself to breathe that deeply. So it's kind of like trying to free the parts that are congested in your breath. So there's a lot of work that you could do with breath work to like expand it and then hold it to let things go. But in all reality, what it's trying to train you to do is naturally get in the flow of what truly feels right for your breath in that flow. So when you become like, think about it for a second, when you become conscious of your breath, what's the first thing you want to do?
Breathe deeper.
Yeah. Your breath knows what to do.
Right.
It does. It's us that gets lost and doesn't allow it to flow naturally that actually creates the problems. It's not because we need to get better at breathing. It's because we need to stop trying not to breathe. We need to allow our breath to become alive and to flow naturally. And we become aware of where we're like, I can't allow my breath. When we say breath, do what feels right, feel good. Oh, it just feels so good. It relaxes, it flows. It's the life force that's meant to clear out everything.
Yeah.
And when we don't surrender to the breath, we get congested. The breath knows what to do. So trust your breath and allow your breath to breathe you. That's all.
And so is breath an element of love just as much as heart is an element of love? Because air is a very big element of blood. We don't talk about that too much, but is breathing just as important an element of this as the heart is? Do we think of them sort of like as the same? Like,
yeah. So air is a very masculine. It's kind of like where the masculine, the feminine meet, right? The breath and then the blood. This force of the masculine, which is very much a breath, a fluid masculine part of us. And then you can see like the water, the blood
Yeah.
is that feminine part that's going to come back, and then together they sync and they recode and they connect. That's the 0 point that they then are, okay, now we go back out and create something different. But the breath and the water are those two parts that become new, brand new when they connect. And so there, it's like the rhythm of your breath is also supposed to be in flow. And our heart usually does its job pretty well. It's our breath, our control, or the masculine part that needs to freeze and not allow the flow that stops us from being in union in the heart, which is where both of them connect together.
Wow. Yeah. And I think also for Eve's question, that's completely revelatory. And I feel like that really does, your body holds the answers there. But there's YouTube videos of like breath work sessions. There's lots of people out there doing them now, like little get togethers just on your Mind Body app or wherever. And then I've done some breath work sessions just with Chat GPT. He's a pretty good teacher, or whatever AI you're using. But there's lots of tools out there that you can just practice different breathing techniques or whatever else feels good, right?
Yes. I've done all of it, but very little. Most of what I've done with my breath work is what I'm saying, is leaning in. I know a lot of people that swear by certain techniques and certain, like, every single morning I'm doing this or that, but it's an exercise, right? Like, to consciously do different kinds of breaths, it's going to make you more, first of all, clear you out, but make you more conscious about your breath throughout the day because you paid attention to it intentionally in the morning. So there's lots of good things with breath work. But
yeah, that's beautiful. And it is a big thing. It's a thing that now has lots of wheels behind it. A lot of people are talking about breath now, and I don't think I wasn't aware of it, 10, 20 years ago. So it's a big thing that you can get a lot of info about if you choose, but also there's the most is going to be inside you to begin with. So that feels really powerful. And if you have anyone who's listening, if you have comments, if you have breath exercises that you do to connect to your heart, that feels like a really important element of fusing the fire and the water, the air, to go out and find those feelings, to activate your heart. So that feels really powerful. And then the other question there about feeling was like the purpose of Earth, and almost like our purpose as humans, and even our purpose as humans right now, trying to manifest the new Earth. Does this heart mission resonate with all those purposes too? Is there something about like 0 point that's specific to our experience on Earth?
yes, and that definitely opens the conversation up for a lot of debate. But yeah. As far as I understand it, the Earth is also an aspect of consciously, an aspect of the universe that is kind of a 0 point. It's like a heart of other parts. If you believe in kind of like the body of God, even the celestial, like, we are encoded with all of these different parts in us, but also the Earth is an aspect of the celestial bodies that is heart-like too. So to the consciousness and lessons needing to be learned comes to the Earth for the Earth to rebirth something new.
Wow.
So I do believe that that's part of what has been trying to be accumulated in New Earth, and why this rebirth and this new Earth is coming through from the Earth. And I do also believe that the Earth itself in this new Earth is meant to be a template for the rest of the universe to follow suit, because we hold all the different parts of the universe that comes into one consciousness in human beings, especially, that is us all trying to make sense of ourselves in the separateness, but all together. Yeah. It's that unifying force, and that's why humans are associated a lot with Earth. If you don't see anything bigger, I know these conversations are growing a little bit bigger, but in a general sense, Earth has a point. I think we can all agree that there is an aspect that is associated with the heart. Okay, and in the Earth with a new heart, with a heart that's ready to birth something new, it's all about finding the unification and surrendering to the feelings, all the really bad feelings that are collected in humanity and however else we get them, that are meant to reunify to the center of love. Yeah. Why this is all happening in the first place, of how we're meant to surrender. Like, the blueprint is being made by our exact story that's unfolding in humanity and in this Earth. So it's definitely a micro scale and a macro scale, no matter which direction you seem to look. It's really
Yeah,
exciting.
right. And that's one thing that we felt a lot in the quantum healing that we've done together and that you've done with, a group around the world. There are experiences and feelings that want to be felt and they want to come in and they want to come through. And not to get too far into it, but one night it was Samson who, the myth is that he brought the building down on himself and was crushed. He came in and wanted to feel some things. So yeah, feeling will come, and I feel like there should be a diagram that puts the earth on one side and the heart next to the other and just like lists out all the similarities. But it's like earth, air and water come together to create life. And the heart is like the same thing. There's probably so many similarities. So that feels really powerful. And I feel like I have a much better understanding of the fundamental purpose of the heart and love and why they're so connected. The next part that you were talking about, which you're getting to right now with the idea of the 0 point, is the idea that we came from love, but the separateness is a gift. And that's something that's so hard to reconcile. I remember my background with religion. It was like the ultimate conundrum. Like God is all loving, okay? But he's
Yeah, he
also,
made us forget. It feels like a trick.
yeah, all these things. So how does that reconcile? How can love be our center point and our ultimatum, but also allow for all this terrible separateness to happen that leads to such terrible circumstances and situations for so many little, tracked humans that are out there on this spectrum that are going through so much?
It's interesting because it brings me right to like I think a lot of people know we were LDS, born and raised. And one of the stories that I'm sure a lot of people share in different religions is that Lucifer, or Satan, or this force, I'm sure it's called different things, was like, I'll show you, I'll do it right. I'll just control everybody. I'll make them do it. And we can have a perfect civilization. Everything is going to be great. And there was this higher understanding of love that said, no, freedom. Freedom is the most important. So there is something so true about love and freedom being tied together. And we could say, okay, so then if we are free, we should only be able to do things that don't harm people. But yet, how could those two things exist? It is within our capacity to learn from our mistakes and to make the wrong choice that we have the freedom to explore it. And that's why grace is so important, because in the capacity that we have been given to make choices, we had to be given a choice other than the right way in order to explore what we wanted to do. And why did we want to explore what we wanted to do? We didn't necessarily want that, but we wanted to experience a relationship where we are brand new. We, as God, creator, goddess, source, whatever, a part of the consciousness that exists that created this whole entire, experience that we're all experiencing from different perspectives, the ability to have a new perspective that didn't exist before. The only way that's possible is by taking away the information and then letting you see from a new place. Not the place everywhere you've been, not everything that's just an extension, but a true new perspective, like a child. Like, why is it so incredible to birth a child and have that child have never seen this before? And to me be able to have a relationship with this child that has never experienced it before. There is so much joy in that experience that we wanted to give it to ourselves, both sides of the fence, mother to child, child to mother. The ability to experiencing something new, and for me to be able to watch you experience, is the most beautiful experience possible. And same for the child. Wow, there's so much wonder. There's so much incredible joy because it's being done for the very first time. Things that were done forever and ever. But now the capacity is I get to watch you and you're experiencing it. And there's this incredible connection in the I've never experienced this, to see something brand new. But to see something brand new, you have to forget everything else that you knew in order to have a viewpoint that is brand new, to experience wonder, to experience relationship between the one that remembers and the one that's experiencing it brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So the dynamic to forget is encoded in us because we wanted to forget to remember. from a new perspective. And we wanted parts of ourselves to remember too. And that's why we have both parts in us. There's a part of us that does remember, and our soul is like, I remember, ask me, like, I'll help guide you. And our very solar plexus is like, I don't know, I want to figure it out myself. The very masculine part of us that wants to control it and is there making the choices is also a part of our journey. And inside us, the very play of existence, mother to child, the one that remembers and the one that forgot, is being played out inside of us, and then us to each other. Is the dynamic of two forces, the one that remembers and the one that forgot. And we are both, and we can tap into both.
Yeah.
Art is the one that's meant to unify those forces through the eyes of love, which is the only reason why we ever created separation in the first place. So it's the threads that hold both, and it's the eyes that see where you forgot. And it's only for love for you. And it's this mother looking at the child being like, okay, you have this freedom. I can't wait for you to learn, but I'm not going to force you. So you're going to have the consequences of every choice. And you can ask me and I'll give you the information, but it has to be your choice. And that's where the relationship that we're trying to figure out. And then, of course, while this is all happening, all the children are figuring it out. They're then fighting with each other and then trying to play these games of I'm better because of whatever fears they have of why they're reborn and they don't even know. And what does this mean about you? We've created the illusion and all the lies that exist. We, and not as you, but we as in the consciousness that forgets, has created the illusion of why, instead of asking source why. Why we came up with it, and now we're trying to be right about all the reasons why we're better than that. We try to make this hierarchy in ourselves or our competition between each other instead of asking source why. And if you truly do ask source why, and you feel all the feelings around that's blocking you from meeting source right there, you get the answer. It's always love.
Wow.
It's always love. And it's right here. Feel it. And that's all you ever needed, was to surrender and ask, and surrender and feel. And it's only our the parts of us that want to be right or that are scared of the answer that don't surrender to the very creations we created that we need to feel through in order to make it back home.
Yeah.
Feeling of love and belonging that it always existed here that we've separated from and don't want to come back home.
Right.
We're scared of what will meet us there.
Yeah.
Our own fears of what's there and that other people have told us that lead us to not go home. But the feelings all bring you back.
Yeah, and it feels so complicated. It feels like if you were the only person on the planet in a Garden of Eden with all the animals loving you, you could probably figure it out. You could feel, I belong to myself. I'll do what feels good. I don't have to be perfect. But with all the co-conspirators in this reality, it feels like there's just too many voices and there's too much distortion and there's just too much work to do to move the needle when there's so much chaos. What does love feel about that?
There's so much like pain. That's why love is so painful, because it's the part that knows it's so hard and it's like, oh, I want to change it for you. I want to force it. I just want to go in there and do. But one of the promises was you got to be willing to make the choice to come back. You got to be willing to ask for help. I can't force it or that, because that's the free will part that was the most important thing that we promised ourselves when we create the separation. I honor you this, your free will. It's like the initial promise in order to do that. And we can't break it, because that would be breaking the whole entire thing that we created and all the pain we've gone through in order to allow that to be. It's so sacred and so important that love allows it to be free. It says, no matter how far you go, no matter the mistakes, I am still waiting here for you. And I want you to return. And I'll be here holding the post for you when you come back. So yes, it's chaos, but when you find it the first time, it's a lot easier to start weaving back through. We get so lost, and it's all so jungled like in our heart because there's so many we're not willing to feel. But if we just have enough faith to try this, let me just hold space to feel how bad I really feel. And you take it long enough to then meet to the other side where you feel relief and you feel love. And then you ask the vulnerable questions about it. Well, then why did I have to? And suddenly you get the answers because things are flowing now to you.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have it once, like that's what I experienced. It was I won't even bring it up, but a very bad time for me that I truly, really finally went past the worst of my pain. And I truly thought that I was going to have to die because there was no way. It had gotten so bad for so long and I didn't believe, but I was willing to stay long enough. But when I got to the other side and I saw there was so much there, so much love and understanding that I never could witness if I hadn't gone through it, it gave me enough confidence to start doing that over and over. So it got easier to trust, and it does over time. So even though it feels like, oh, there's so much, it's just too big, everything is done in steps. And all that like source asks you for is just each moment, one step at a time. It's not fix it all in one time. It's just trust enough to make that one step, that one surrender, that one surrender. And then you get there. Once you've got back home one time, and then you pull back out because that's what life does. You then trust, okay, I know how to get there. I know it's not going to last forever. Okay, got there again.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a thread that becomes more fluid every time you're then unweaving all the parts that are stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it takes us to the third element of the heart and love. And for those of you who are with us, we'd love to hear any feelings you have about this idea of surrender. I think for me, it's been a journey that never becomes simple, but it becomes more doable over time, where at each point there's decisions that's to be vulnerable and lean in, or to defend and project and put up some walls to keep myself safe. So as we learn to do that, to surrender, what are the feelings that come up when it feels like it's sort of impossible, where you want to, and you want to try to meet yourself there and feel it, but it just feels like it's inaccessible. It's too, I think, like too hard or too.
Well, that's the belief. And if that's the belief, you don't have to. It really is a choice.
What if you want to, but it just feels like it's too far?
Then stop believing that. It's not impossible. You're telling yourself that. That's what's making you not lean in. So, and become aware of what you're telling yourself when you're like, I want to, then why aren't you? Because it's impossible. But is it? Okay, so maybe it is possible. Then what would it, then the next question comes that's holding you back. Okay, if it is possible, that what if I cry forever? And it's like, well, what if
Yeah.
is that true though? Is it okay? And that's the next door. You just got to keep peeling away the parts of your will that says, I can't. I have to hold on. I have to hold control. Everything will fall apart if I don't. So you got to be the one willing to meet yourself there in all those thoughts, that those walls you created in order to protect yourself, to hear it out and to speak to it, and then vulnerably surrender each time. Okay, but it is okay. Okay. Create enough safety and support for yourself that you can talk yourself through every doubt that you can't surrender.
Yeah.
The space, whether that be somebody else that can hold space for you. That's one of my jobs as a QHHT practitioner, is to be able to hold space for somebody to truly surrender their vulnerable truths to me in a space that there is no judgment, and that we can just kind of like lay it out on the table and just say, okay, and what do we want to do now? And then diving into the deep psyche with whatever their intentions are, whatever the answers they want. It's because they chose to create a safe place, to go to somebody that was willing to hold space. Mm-hmm. There's always that option, no matter what it is. Even if the only thing you can possibly, you're in, the world is dead and it's just you can create that for you.
Right.
You can do all these things and say, I got all my food here. I got all this, I got that. Like nothing else is I created this shelter. Now I'm surrendering. You could do that.
Wow.
Without anybody else.
Yeah, I love what you said, and it reminds me of the different things that you've helped me with over the years. But the first step really can be just to consider a different option. So you don't have to do it yet. It feels a little out of reach, but just consider what it would look like if you did. And then if you use your mind, it's so important to realize how all your different powers can connect to your heart and help you become this ability to feel, right? Develop it. So the first step, like you said, can just be consider what it would look like if you did, and then develop that further and further. Oh, and if you did that, what would happen next? And then next time you did it, what could you do then? So is that visualization and that planning a really important element of learning how to feel?
Yeah, like if you treat yourself as if you are both mother and child,
Mm-hmm.
you can have that conversation. Well, I'm too scared. There's too much going on. And then hold space for that. Don't just be done with it
Yeah.
unless you want to be done with it. If you hold space after you express yourself, you can then hold space to say, but is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Is there more there that you can uncover? And just by expressing it, you found space, and just expressing it and then holding space after, instead of just moving with what you said. There's then that silence, that important silence, that then the question, the observer comes in to see the choice or the thought of, I can't, there's just too much, I'll blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And hold space. You're still there. Then you become the observer of the thought. And that's the higher perspective, right? So you can say, well, maybe this or that. And you're like, okay, well then, okay. And then that one dissolves, and then you come up against the next one. Yeah, but this and this and this. And then hold space again.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start to come back out into the observer again. And then you can say, well, maybe this or this or this. And that space is so important, especially with art and with feelings, because whatever is holding you from allowing your feelings is a part that needs to be spoken to, and it deserves to be heard, because there's a reason why it's trying to protect you, and it thinks it's doing the best job possible, and it deserves to have some like credit, validation. Thank you for sacrificing yourself in order to make sure everybody else is good, so that nobody else is inconvenienced by your feelings. Like, you deserve to be valid in that. But then, like, okay, but should you, like, more comes of it if you hold the space to love yourself enough to consider if there is something better now, and to be appreciative of whatever you've done to get to this point, because it brought you here now.
Right.
It doesn't need to be judgment. All there needs to be is thank you, I love you, I'm sorry. And it's really a simple way of allowing yourself to see there's something more without any judgment, but that you might be holding yourself back from true joy and celebration and whatever is holding you back from feeling better.
Mm-hmm. So is it possible to experience true love without feeling your feelings?
I guess it would depend on what you mean by true love. We all have the capacity to feel as much love as is present within you at any time. And you grow that sense of love depending on how much you have allowed yourself to be seen by that love. And you do so every time you show up for yourself. And that's not just in the heart. When you are loving yourself enough to do what feels right, when you're loving yourself enough to stand up for yourself because you feel like it, this is all acts of love that you are expanding the capacity you have, because you showed up, you saw yourself, and you allowed yourself to be seen in a loving way. So it's not an all or nothing. It's not like you either feel like all love or you don't. There's a million feelings to feel, and there's a lot of different ways that we block it. But we are like, we are colored with all the different experiences at different times and the different accumulation. So I can't say it's one or the other, but in any moment that you are not loving yourself that way, you are incapable of loving another. It's not real love. It might be like, I need their acceptance. You might be trying to chase love. You're doing it to try to chase love because you're hoping you'll get that back from them. But it's not a feeling of love. The feeling of love comes from within. When we feel the lack of love, we then extend ourselves to try to get it elsewhere, but you never find it elsewhere. You attract this feeling that, oh, do you love me? Do you love me? Okay, I hope they love me. And then it comes back, oh, I don't feel loved. I need more. I need more. And it creates that more parasite kind of, I need you versus I love you, because it's a flowing and then a mirror outward to everybody else. So kind of unconditional love that I'm talking about is the kind that you hold for yourself. It has no conditions, and it's just because you've been seen by love. You've allowed yourself to be seen, to be felt, and to be known through your heart that brought it all back in. Then you fill your cup, which then you can mirror out because you love, and it's abundant. And it's like, I see you that way too, because I see myself. You clear your capacity to see, and you feel everybody else, and you see them not in a negative way, but in the way that brings it back to love, because that part is clear.
Mm-hmm.
Like the many facets that you create in your heart because you've allowed love to witness you, you then have that capacity to mirror it out to everybody else. And that's true love. It has no conditions. As I see you and I feel you, I'm with you there because I have overcome it in myself. The fear that says I'm not enough, or whatever part that could block that clear sight of love.
Mm-hmm. That's such a powerful thing to learn and feel within yourself. That it sounds like what you're saying is, if you feel like you're seeking for love or you want more love, it all starts with how you love yourself.
Yes, if you're seeking for love outside yourself, you will always be disappointed, and it will be a perpetual disappointment, even though at times it'll feel like, finally, oh, good. And it just like, it repeats and it drains you over time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to attract you to people that want to pull out your energy too and are using you. So it's not a true love connection. It is a duality connection to prove itself over time that it's not the right way to do it.
Yeah.
So true love isn't about getting something. It's about feeling it and then mirroring it to say, you deserve this too. And to say, I am you too. And I fill myself up, and I also want to fill up you because I'm so abundant with this love that it's fun to share it.
Mm-hmm.
That's different.
Mm-hmm. And if that does feel like the cycle that you might be encountering or looping through over and over, would the first step be stopping to feel that disappointment and feel it all the way through?
Yeah, because if you, instead of trying to then go out and get it again, you sit with the discomfort, you're going to go in. Your emotion will bring you back to you, back home,
mm-hmm.
back to the place that you wanted it all along, but you just forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you witness it, and then you pull it in, and however long you're willing to like fill your cup, you then hold all that space to then give it outward because it's abundant. It doesn't feel like it needs anything. It feels so full. And that fullness then is like, oh, I want to share it. It's nice to share it, but I'm not going to like let it be leached.
Yeah.
With those who can mirror it back, because they have it in them too. It's like, this is fun. Let's share.
Right.
Not a depletion unless you have so much. A lot of times you get so full that it's like, I have so much to give that I'm okay just kind of offering it to people that are starving.
Yeah.
You got to be aware of your own cup, and that's the most important thing, is to hold enough love for you that when you want to mirror it, and it's just like a reciprocal thing. And then sometimes it's just like, oh, they're really hurting. They just need a breadcrumb. Like you can then offer it without any expectation. It's just because it feels good to give. No matter what you do with it, I like to give.
Mm-hmm.
No strings attached.
Mm-hmm.
That's because you have more than you need. Not because you're trying to gain some kind of approval into heaven, or because you feel like they're better than you, or you're trying to get their love. Like that's an entirely different exchange.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And it feels like giving out of abundance rather than giving out of hope of getting back more than you were giving so that you can feel better than you do now. And
even less than. A lot of times we're like, I'll give this much. I just need this.
Right. That's such a good point. Just to feel something.
Yeah.
It's a draining cycle that continues. But it feels like if we're willing to surrender, that the center point for the new earth comes in when we reach that tipping point that enough of us are willing to surrender. That's what it's feeling like. Is that true? This is sort of the note we'll need to end on, but is that where does this all lead as we start to surrender and feel, where does it lead?
I do believe that there's different frequencies that the earth is existing on, and that it's starting to now split, but that it is very much a physical reality that we all have ascended to in some levels, and that at different times, depending on the frequency that you're showing up, you're either showing up in a world that's going to mirror back to you all the love that you have and all the forgiveness, and the people that are going to be brought to you are going to be of that same frequency. And then there's times we're going to be brought back into this lower version of reality that's going to be mirroring a lot of negative things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your question was what exactly? I want to make sure
Where does, as we do this and find the 0 point within us, what does it lead to?
So it's not like, oh, once enough people hit it. Like, I do believe it's here. Like, we can live there today with each other, and we can begin to ascend in a way that so much of our consciousness, we're showing up more often in this 5D state of love and respect and unity. But through our own, it's us that determines our frequency. It's us that determines where are we showing up today and how is our day going to go. And it is us that determines how much of our day and our time is spent in this higher consciousness that it'll be mirroring back to you, or if you're being brought back down to something that's going to be negative responses because you're holding negative energy.
Okay.
Well, yes, it all starts inside here, but I don't think it's like it's one or the other, and it's just a splitting point that there's just two. I think that we're kind of jumping frequencies and experiencing the world in both places as it's uncovering what it's like to live here or what it's like to live here, and where do you want to be?
Yeah. And how much, I'll never forget the moment we had like a year and a half ago, maybe, with our little guy, who noticed that me as his dad just kind of runs around checking on everybody, and I hadn't really truly learned how to love myself. And it was a 2-year-old or 3-year-old who taught me that in a way that I couldn't deny, because he intuitively could see it. And it feels like then the ultimate lesson of all this is, are you willing to meet yourself where you are and truly love yourself?
To allow yourself to be loved from inside. It's like, that's where it's kind of confusing, because it's not like I have to love myself. It's you have to allow yourself to be loved. Allow yourself to be loved by yourself, but by the source that's inside of you. So like connecting to God inside of you, connecting to love, a frequency that says that you do deserve it, and I am worthy, and I can receive, and I do receive, and allow that to flow naturally through you till you're so abundant. We could go our whole life like trying to love ourselves, and it would just be in like a selfish way, versus feeling love for yourself because you deserve it. And then allowing that love to drive you to do whatever would feel good and right for you. Does that make sense, the difference between those two?
It feels like the deepest truth that I've ever heard. Are you, let me say it back and let's make sure I'm getting it right. Are you willing to allow yourself to be loved by the God inside of you?
Yes.
It's so deep. That goes
allow
all the way.
Yourself to be received, like be received by the ultimate love that exists already inside you. To bear yourself in your feelings and your experience deep inside, and then allow the space to be seen and witnessed and receive the love that's there for you. It comes with stop striving so much, which was my experience, to receive and be received by other people, and sit in your feelings long enough to then go inward and suggest, is there something more than what I'm trying to gain externally? That's where you finally find it. And that's where you finally feel home. And in that home, you feel whole because you feel like, oh, it was all here inside me the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Then you remember, it's like a homecoming, because you remember, like, this is what it was always supposed to feel like. Man, I was lost for a long time.
So true. It is. And that feels like a treat. It feels like now you're as above, so below, bearing fruit. Let it grow. Never forget what you know.
I love it.
That's so powerful. So I'll be letting that resonate and grow within me like a little seed that continues to take root and grow stronger as we prepare for our next conversation next week.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah,
it's going to be a big one.
That was big tonight, and it takes us right to the throat and the voice and the feeling that comes through verbal expression. So can't wait. Super excited. But thank you so much for everything you shared. Thank you for those of you who joined and made comments and contributed.
We love you.
July week, and we'll see you soon.
Happy 4th.